Again, it's a red skin.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to learn how to build a simple Kraken trading bot using Python. So let us get right into it. Alright, now in order to build a Kraken trading bot in Python, we're going to have to make use of the Kraken API, and for that, obviously, we're going to need to have a Kraken account. I think everyone who's into programming will be able to set up an account on their own. You just sign up, you sign in, and then you see that dashboard at kraken.com. So it's not going to be part of the tutorial, but once you see that, once you have your account, once you're logged in, what you need to do is you need to go to the top right here onto your name, you click on it, you click on security, and then you click on API, and here you're now able to create API keys. And those keys are what we're going to use to authenticate ourselves, to authorize the respective commands, because we're going to use Python to send requests to the Kraken API, but of course Python or the Kraken API needs to know that we have the permission, so we need to authenticate, we need to authorize the request by sending the API key or a signature. So we're going to click on add key here, and one thing that you need to keep in mind here is you can select the permissions, and depending on those permissions, you're going to be able to do certain things with the API keys. The problem is, of course, if you create now API keys and for some reason you tell those keys to someone else, or you just leave them around and someone sees them and uses them, they can do whatever you can do with those keys. So those are actually your API keys that you use for the authorization of requests. And if I say, for example, I want to be able to create and modify orders, for example, or cancel and close orders with those keys, and someone else finds those keys, they can do the same thing with my account, with your account. So for today's video, I think I'm going to basically use all of the permissions. I'm going to set an expiration date so that the key isn't valid too long. So I'm going to say key expiration, and I'm going to say it's going to expire tomorrow, so before that video actually goes live. And basically, you just create the key. You can also specify a nonce, which is just a number that you add for, what was it, I think for more randomness, or was it for brute force security or something like that. But essentially, you just create a key by pressing now generate key at the bottom. And what you see then, I hopefully censored this out from the video, otherwise it's going to be invalid and it's going to expire anyways, but you have an API key and you have a private key. And what you want to do is you want to save those. You can use them directly in the script that you're going to write, or you can save them in a file and load them from there, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a text file, and the first line is going to be the API key, and the second line is going to be the private key, and then I'm going to use just Python to read those keys from the text file. So let us now get into the code. The first thing we want to do is we want to import a couple of libraries. I think they should all be part of the core Python stack. I'm not sure about requests, if it's part of the core Python stack. Otherwise, whenever you find something that you don't have, you type into the command line pip install and the respective name of the module. But as I said, I think all of them are part of the core Python stack. So we type import time, we type import requests, we type import url lib.parse, we type import hashlib, we type import hmac, and we type import base64. So basically, those are all about hashing and signatures and encoding. Those are for the request, and this is just time to get the current timestamp for the signature. So those are the modules that we're going to use. And then the next thing that we do is we're going to load the keys from the file. So we're going to say with open, in my case, I just called the file keys. In reading mode SF, I'm going to then say that the API key is going to be f, or actually maybe let's say lines equals f.read.splitlines, and then API underscore key is going to be lines 0, and API security, so API underscore sec, is going to be lines 1. So we're loading them from the file. You can again also just go ahead and say API key is, and then you can just use a string to put it in here, depending on how you want to do it. For this video, I'm going to read it from the files. And then we can actually get started with the definition of two methods that we're going to use, or two functions that we're going to use to actually send requests, and then the rest is just applying those functions to do certain kinds of requests. Now, I want to mention right away here, my portfolio, my account here is not the most interesting. I think I did some very minor traits a couple years ago, so I don't have much to show here. But that's also not the purpose of the video, to show you my transactions. It's basically whatever I show you here, you can use with your own account. And since we're talking about this anyways, none of this is financial advice. This is just programming advice. I'm not an investing professional. Don't trust me on that matter. I'm just showing you how to do the programming. All right, so the first function we're going to define here is the get underscore Kraken underscore signature. And I think I have this from the official documentation of the Kraken API. And essentially this function is used to create a signature that we can send with the request to authorize or to actually sign the transaction. So we're going to say URL path is going to be a parameter, data is going to be a parameter, secret is going to be a parameter. And essentially, yeah, we pass to that function. So to this signature function, we pass the secret key that we read from the file here to authorize the request that we're going to define later on. And the first thing we want to do is we want to say the post data is equal to url_lib.parse.url encode. This is the data, and the data is whatever we want to send. In this case, it's going to be passed by the next function to that signature function. Besides that, we're going to encode that. So we're going to say encoded is essentially just the string of data nonce, which is the number that we talked about before when creating the keys, plus the post data that we now have here. And all of this is going to be encoded into bytes. And then essentially we have the message, which is going to be URL path dot encode. Well, it is quite technical here. This is for the creation of the signatures, so it's not really any anything that's trading related. Hashlib dot SHA-256, a hashing algorithm. There you go. And what we're hashing is the encoded thing, and we're getting the digest, so the result of that. So this is the signature, so that we have a hash, and then what we do is we do a MAC. So hmac is going to be new base64 dot b64 decode. We decode the secret key, since the secret key is base64 encoded. We pass the message here as well, and we use the hashlib function dot SHA-512. And sig digest, so signature digest is going to be base64 dot b64 encode mac dot digest. So again, this is quite technical. I'm not going to focus too much on that because I have some videos about hashing, about cryptography, and I can make more in the future. But today I want to focus on the Kraken trading bot. So this is just means to an end here, this whole signature hashing thing. So I'm going to basically just show you the code here, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the trading bot. So sigdigest.decode is what we returned here, and this function is now what we're going to use in another function that we're going to define, and this function is going to be called Kraken request, like that. And here we pass the path, and we pass the data, and we pass the API key and the API secret key. So everything we need is here. By the way, I think we should also define the API URL, which is https and then api.kraken.com, like that. And now we can move on with this function. Essentially, we're going to define the headers to be a dictionary where we have an API dash key, and the respective value is obviously the API key. And then we don't want to have API secret. We want to have API dash sign. And this is going to be also not the secret key. It's going to be the signature. So this is going to be the function that we created. Get Kraken signature. What we pass here is the URI path. Actually, isn't URL a better name? There you go. URL path that we're passing here, and then we also pass the data and the API secret key. This is what we need it for. And those are now the headers. And now for the request, what we do is we say, sorry, The request is now requests dot post. We send a post request to the API URL plus the URL path. And the headers are going to be equal to headers, and the data is going to be equal to data. There you go. And actually, I think this is a response, right? So let's call this resp and return resp. There you go. So again, basically, we load the keys, both of the keys from the file. We specify the URL of the API. We have the signature function that creates the signature that we need for the verification here, for the signing. And here we do the actual request that we pass to that function. This is what we need here as a framework, and then we can now just go ahead and do some basic stuff. For example, we can get started right away with a simple request, which is going to be getting the current balance. So we're going to make a Kraken request. We're going to use the function that we just defined, and we're going to just say, okay, what is my balance? And again, all of this should be able should be available in the Kraken API. If you don't know what to type here, I'm going to show you some of the things. But of course, if you want to have a more detailed documentation, you just look at the official documentation of the Kraken API. In order to get the balance, the current balance of your account, what you type is /0/private/balance. And of course, you need to have the permissions. If you don't have the permissions in the API key, you're not going to be able to do that. So this is essentially the URL path that we're interested in. And what we're going to pass here is we're going to pass a nonce in the dictionary here. And the nonce is going to be string of integer of 1,000 times the current timestamp. And of course, we need to authorize this with the API key and with the API secret. There you go. And this is going to be a response, and the result of that response is going to be we're going to turn it into a JSON object or into a JSON format. And now if we run this here, hopefully if the keys work, we see here that we have 0 errors. So this does not mean that we have an error. This means that the error collection is empty. We don't have any errors. And the result is that I have some Ethereum here. I don't know. This is probably less than $1. And here we have some Euro funds, which is also less than a cent or something. So nothing fancy here. But of course, if you have a big portfolio, you're going to see all your currencies listed here. And of course, I can now also go ahead and say, okay, I don't want to have the full JSON. I want to have just the result. And then I can rerun this, and you're going to see that now we have that. And I can, of course, go ahead now and say, okay, I want to just know how much Ethereum I have. And then I'm going to get that value in this case. So this is a basic thing that you can do here, just getting your current balance. Now we can also get the trade balance, which I think the difference here is that we have a certain asset. I think we specify here certain asset. So we say response equals Kraken request, and this time the URL path is 0 private trade balance. And we again pass a simple nonce, which is going to be string of integer of 1,000 times time. There you go. And now we're going to specify the asset, which is going to be USD. And then API key, API secret. And in this case, of course, we forgot to print. So let's print response.json. And here we can now see all sorts of things. Now, let me just quickly look up in the documentation what this means. We can see here in the documentation that the trade balance retrieves a summary of collateral balances, margin position valuations, equity, and margin level. To be honest, I don't know how to decipher these key value pairs, but this is a more complex thing than the ordinary account balance. But what you can see here is the Kraken documentation. So for each function that it offers, you can see here, first of all, what it does in a very basic way. Then you can see here how to do that in curl or how to do it in Python. And here you can see basically what we did here. We had the Kraken request function and so on. And then you can also see what a response looks like. So if you're confused about something, or if you want to look up something, you can just look into the documentation. But this is how you do that with the trade balance. Now, besides that, what I want to show you here is how to get the open orders. And I think in my case, this is going to be empty because I don't have open orders. Again, my account is not the most exciting, but the open orders, you can get them like that. And here you basically set also trades to true. But then you can see here, we get a result set. Errors again is empty, which means everything worked, and result open with an empty dictionary basically means that I don't have anything. Otherwise, we would have key value pairs of open orders, which is what you can try in your portfolio to see the difference. Now, what I'm going to also do here is I'm going to say closed orders, because here, I'm not sure if closed orders actually also past orders, but I think I should be able to see what orders I did in the past. But we can actually just run this to find out. So let's start this. And what we see here is an empty result set. Okay, so in this case, we don't see the past transactions. I think for that, we need to use the trading history. So not the closed or open orders. We need to use the trading history. So for that, we go to 0 private/trades history. And basically the rest stays the same. And then we should get a collection with the respective trades. So you can see here now the error is still empty, and the result is basically what we want to have. In this case, we have count 2. I have done 2 trades on this account. We can see in the trades key value pair, we have another dictionary with some specific keys referring to that. We can see the ID of the order. We can see what I did here. We can see that I have traded Ethereum into euros. And I sold. So basically, I think this means that I sold. Did I sell Ethereum or did I sell Euro in this case? I think I sold Ethereum because I bought Ethereum first and then I sold it. So you can see when this happened. You can see that I sold Ethereum. You can see that I sold at the market price, which was 260, which is quite low, I think. So I should have held that, or I should have held that. And then I have also a buy order, which was 257. Yeah, so I could have made much more profit there. But you can see that this gives me the trades history. And now let's get to the interesting part, which we're going to need for the final trading bot, because this is like just some theoretical explanation of the API. We're going to talk about the trading bot then. But the important thing is, how do we create new orders? So how can we go ahead and place an order? And for that, what we do is we say resp equals Kraken request, and it is 0 private add order. And the dictionary that we pass here now is going to have a bunch of more values. Now it's still going to have the nonce, which is still going to be string int 1000 times time.time. And the order type is the first thing we want to specify here. So what kind of order do we want to do? We have a market order, we have a limit order. Basically, if you try to sell something, for example, at the market price, you sell it right now at the next possible time to whatever the market is willing to pay for it. Whereas if you say a limit order, basically means that you want to sell it now, but only if the price is in a certain range. So for example, when you buy, a limit order would be, let's say something trades at $200 and you want to say, okay, I buy a limit order 210, which means that if the price rises to 205, you're still going to buy at the market price. But if for some reason within a second the price rises to 220, you're not going to buy because that's above your limit. And the same goes the other way around. For selling, you want to sell at a certain minimum price, whereas you want to buy at a certain maximum price. So we can go with a limit order to see how that would work. And we're going to say, okay, the type of order we want to do here is a sell. So we want to sell at a certain limit. Now let's go ahead and say the volume that we want to sell here is 1.25 of, this is the next parameter here, of a certain pair. And the pair is going to be, I think, XBT USD, or was it XBTC USD? I'm not sure. I think XBT USD sells Bitcoin for US dollars. And we can set a minimum price here of 27,500. I don't know what the current price is. Maybe that's way too much. Maybe that's way too low. I think it's actually too low. But I'm gonna just specify something. It's not gonna work anyways because I don't have any funds to sell here. But then we pass the API key, we pass the API secret, and then we're going to see that in my case, since I don't have the funds that I'm trying to use here, it's gonna essentially say that we're going to have an error. There you go. But actually we got another error, not the error I thought. So let's see if we have a problem here. Yes, of course I messed up something. I forgot the first slash, and because of that it doesn't know the URL. So let's rerun this here with an additional slash. And then you can see here that the first time we'll get an error as a response. So it's not an HTTP error. We get an error from the Kraken API, and it says, okay, we have insufficient funds. I cannot sell that much because I don't have that much. Now, of course, in your case, if you have that, if you have the respective funds, this is what you can use as a sell order. For example, in this case, if you have a trading bot and you say, okay, now a certain situation happened, I want to sell, you can use that to make an actual sell. And the same can be done now with a market order. We're going to do a market buy order here as an example. So I'm going to just copy that and paste it here. And now the only thing that we change is we change the order type to market. We change the type to buy. And we're going to buy 0.01 XBT USD. So we're going to buy with USD some Bitcoin. And in this case, we're also going to see that I have insufficient funds. But again, this can be used as a buying order. And before we get into the actual trading bot, the last thing I want to show you here is how to cancel all orders in case you want to do that. Essentially, you say, I think we can copy the first two lines again. Instead of add order, we say cancel all. And that is actually it. Then API key, API secret. There you go. Print resp JSON. And there you go. So it doesn't give us an error, but we don't have any orders to close. So the count is 0. Nothing happened essentially. Now, all of this can be used to now implement an algorithmic trading bot. Now, the strategy that we're going to use for this trading bot is not going to be a sophisticated one. We're basically going to just define a sell limit and a buy limit. And once the price crosses one of those limits, we're going to either sell or buy. I have some videos on this channel already where I talk about some actual trading strategies like MACD or a simple moving average and so on, based on a simple moving average. One of the videos is, I think, called Algorithmic Trading in Python. The other one is recently I made a video on Trality where I explained some trading strategies. Today we're going to just set two limits and we're going to force some buys and sells so that you can see that actually this is gonna cause the actual request. And for that, all we do here is we specify buy underscore limit to be a certain price. I'm gonna go now with 38,000 for Bitcoin. I'm not sure what the current price is. We're gonna see in a second here. And we're going to set a sell limit equal to 39,000. And then we're going to say buy amount is going to be just 0.01. Sell amount equals 0.01 as well. And then what we do is we basically have an endless loop. Now this is, I just left this up here so that we can use it in a second here. We're going to move this. Essentially, we're going to say while true, and in this loop, what we're going to do is we're going to get the current price, and the current price can be requested from the API by saying request.get HTTP, and then api.kraken.com/0/public, so not private, public. So you also don't need an authentication for that. You don't need a key for that. Ticker question mark pair equals, and now BTC/USD. And whatever we get here is as JSON. And what we get here is essentially also a result set. Result. And I have here noted what the actual key is that we're interested in. And this is the XXBT ZUSD. And of course, we want to put that in quotations. And then this again has a couple of values. And what we want to have is the C value and then the first element of that. So this is a little bit complicated. You can also just look at the JSON and see why we pick those. But by going to result, this ticker, then C, and then the first number that we have there, we are going to get the current price. And we can actually print that by printing the current price. And then we can just make time sleep 1 so that we don't do it all the time. And then we're going to get the, what do we have here now? This is in line 48. Did I make a mistake? HTTPS. Is that the problem? There you go. Okay. So now we get the price. We can see here that probably our values are not perfect. Let's say the buy limit is 39,000 and this is 39,050. And now let's pause this again. And the basic idea is that we're going to get that price and compare it with our limits. And depending on the price and the limits, we're going to buy or sell. So we're going to say if the float typecasted current price, because I think that is a string what we get here. If that price is less than the buy limit, we're going to do a buy order. So we're going to basically say print buying and then buy amount of BTC at, and then current price. There you go. And all we need to do now is we need to take that here. We need to put it down here. Of course, we need to indent it. And instead of saying sell, we're going to say buy, and we're going to do a market order. And we can also, of course, do a limit order and then specify the limit as a price here, but we don't need the price if we have a market order. We're going to buy the buy amount. And we have the correct ticker. That's essentially it. So we can execute that order. Now, in our case, of course, it's going to have... it's going to fail because we don't have the funds. So we can also catch that by saying if not response.json error. And basically, if you apply not to a list, it gives you true when the list is empty, and it gives you false when the list has some content. So basically, if we don't have any errors, this is what this line means. We're going to print successfully bought BTC. Otherwise, we're going to print error, and then we're going to just say response JSON error, whatever the error is. In our case, it's going to be insufficient funds. And now the other case here is elif. If the floating point typecasted current price is larger or greater than the sell limit, what we're going to do is we're going to basically copy all of this here, put it down here, and we're going to say selling sell amount of Bitcoin at current price. Then the type is going to be a sell. And this is going to be the sell amount. In this case, it's the same as the buy amount. And then successfully sold BTC, or again, an error. And then last but not least, we can also have an else, which is going to be current price is whatever the current price is. And we're going to say not buying or selling. And of course, again, you can do the same thing with simple moving averages. So 30-day, 100-day when they cross or something, or with a MACD indicator, and then execute these commands. Whatever your strategy is, it boils down to just if-else statements. And when you get the the signal that you're waiting for, you just execute these orders. So the only thing that we need here is a time sleep, and we're gonna say 3 seconds here. And now, actually, Bitcoin has increased in value, so now we're getting selling signals because that's the current price of Bitcoin. So let's adjust that. We can go with 39,100 and here 39,200. And now we can see here that it's close to 100. So maybe we're going to sell soon, or actually buy soon if it drops a little bit. Otherwise, we might see an increase and then it's going to sell. Now, of course, this is gambling, so we can wait here for a long time where it can happen. Oh, there you go. Already buying because it fell below 39,100. It's falling even more now and more. And basically all the time we get insufficient funds. Otherwise, it would probably buy. And again, this is a pretty stupid strategy. It won't work. I wouldn't use it, but this is what you can do. I would recommend a more sophisticated strategy. But this is how you build a simple Kraken trading bot in Python. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.